Hi, everybody. I'm Joanna, a 16-year-old from Detroit, and today I want to tell you about a disease that I will have to live with for the rest of my life. And no, it's not cancer or a tumor or anything like that. It's GERD. That's gastrointestinal reflux disease, for those of you who haven't heard of it before. Basically, it means that some parts of my digestive system don't work properly. This might sound embarrassing, but I can't stop burping. Go ahead and make fun of me if you want, but it's true. I can't control it. I've had it ever since I was a baby, and it took my parents 3 trips to 3 different doctors to confirm that it was true. So here I am, living with GERD. My mom was devastated that she couldn't help me, and as for my dad, well, he left my mom when I was only 3 years old, and my sister Brianna was 7. He said he just couldn't handle my disease. I mean, I guess I can't blame him. So now the only people who help me are my mom and big sis. It hasn't been easy to keep my GERD under control. I remember when I was around 9, I had a really mean teacher. She thought that I kept burping on purpose and made me stand in the corner for 15 minutes. She was a psycho. I thought things would get better when I moved up to high school, but oh boy, was I wrong. There was this one time when we were sitting in an exam. I burped so loud, the whole class heard me. The whole room was silent. Then suddenly, everyone just burst out laughing. I was blushing so much, I looked like a tomato. How embarrassing! My teacher was so annoyed he sent me to the principal's office. But thankfully, the principal believed me about my GERD, especially after I showed her my doctor's note explaining my disease. Later that day, I told my friends about it. Some of them believed me, but some didn't. I know you guys are probably wondering about the best ways to keep GERD under control. Well, the doctor only gave me 3 rules to follow. Number 1, I have to take medicine at least twice a week. Number 2, I can't drink any fizzy drinks or eat any spicy food, which sucks because I seriously love cola and hot wings. And number 3, to soothe my stomach, I have to drink this horrible honey tea that my mom makes. But even with these rules, I still have some problems. I used to date this guy called Nathan. He's my ex-boyfriend now, and you won't believe why. One time, he took me to the movies, and he bought me a drink. When I took a sip, I realized it was soda, but by then, it was too late. The whole movie, I just kept burping uncontrollably. The audience were so annoyed with me, and afterwards, Nathan broke up with me because he thought I was disgusting. Honestly, my GERD gets me into some pretty embarrassing situations. When I was at my friend Jasmine's place, her mom brought us chicken wings. They are my absolute fave food, so I thought one bite couldn't hurt. Well, I was wrong. It was so spicy, and my stomach couldn't handle it. I let out the biggest burp ever, and Jasmine and her mom just stared at me totally shocked. They probably thought I had no manners whatsoever. When my mom came to pick me up, she explained about my GERD. And luckily, Jasmine and her mom understood. Anyway, now I have a boyfriend. His name's Alejandro, and we've been dating for about 2 months. He's seriously the most charming guy at school, but he didn't know about my GERD. I was afraid he'd break up with me if he found out, so I tried to hide it from him. One time, we were at the swimming pool, and I felt a burp coming, so I quickly rushed off to the bathroom. I let out my burp and felt much better, but I didn't realize there were 2 girls in the bathroom with me. They looked at me in disgust and walked off. Recently, I'd been kind of avoiding hanging out with Alejandro too often, as I was afraid I wouldn't be able to hide it much longer. But one day, he called me and asked if I wanted to go for dinner at a fancy restaurant that night. We'd never eaten out together before, and even though I wanted to say no, I found myself saying yes. Then, I started panicking. I called my sister for help, and she drove all the way from her college to calm me down. I told her I needed to keep my GERD a secret, and so she agreed to help me. I put on my nicest dress, a sparkly blue and white one, and when Alejandro saw me, he told me how beautiful I looked. I giggled, and then we started walking into the restaurant. But suddenly, I felt a burp coming. I quickly covered my mouth and burped as quietly as I could so he wouldn't hear me. Brianna was hiding in the alley next to the restaurant, in case I needed her. Everything was going well. We were chatting and ordered our food, but there was one small problem. My stomach was growling, and I felt like I needed to burp again. I decided to hold it in, and as Alejandro leaned in to kiss me, I realized I couldn't do it. I had to get out of there. I told him I'd be right back and rushed to find my sister. Now my stomach was in agony, and I could feel a sharp pain. I felt like I was going to explode. I rushed outside to see Brianna, and luckily, she works at a spa, so she's amazing at massages. She asked me to lie down, and then she gently massaged my stomach. After a few seconds, I let out the biggest, loudest burp of my entire life. I even set off 3 car alarms. Brianna helped me up and asked if I felt better, and I thanked her. But then I heard a voice behind me and realized who it was. It was Alejandro! He was staring at me and asked if that was me who had just burped. Oh my gosh, he'd seen the whole thing. I wanted the ground to swallow me up. And then I realized I had no choice. I had to tell him. So I explained everything. And to my complete shock, he walked towards me and said I didn't need to hide anything from him, and that his cousin had GERD too, so he knew all about it. Then he told me just to be myself. I was so happy I couldn't hold back. We kissed, and it was so romantic. Well, for about 5 seconds anyway. But then I let out a burp right into his mouth. Brianna started laughing, and Alejandro was coughing. Oops. But hey, at least I don't have to hide my GERD anymore, or be embarrassed about it. All that matters is being yourself. And you shouldn't let anyone tell you otherwise.
It's a well-known fact that women have a sixth sense. They can smell a man's lie from a block away. Guys, the sixth sense is real. If you get caught, you should tell the truth. Nothing will ever cover our eyes, ever. I've heard a lot about intuition, but I didn't think all that much about it. This all changed when my friend's female intuition turned out to be oh so right. One evening, I received a call from Carla. She was sobbing and told me that we needed an emergency meeting. I immediately packed my bag and went over to her house. Carla sobbed into her bowl of salty popcorn as she recalled how she caught her boyfriend Joe cheating on her. Every time Joe went out to do anything, he had to take a photo and send it to Carla. At first, it was just a way to show interest to each other, but then it became some kind of report. That day, he took a picture of him having lunch at a restaurant and said that he went to eat by himself. But he didn't take into account my friend's detective skills, and she found something suspicious. The image of a blonde girl reflected on a spoon on the dining table. And it was not wrong. After a period of stalks on all the fields, from social networks to real life, Carla caught the two of them together. Turns out, he'd been dating this other girl for weeks. A girl's intuition is dangerous, and the ability to investigate is not inferior to Sherlock Holmes. If those arguments equated to mathematics, women would have won all the Nobel Prizes in this world. I wondered if my boyfriend Danny was hiding something from me. After Carla's story, I decided to be more aware of the little things he said and did. I decided to conduct a test. One time I slammed into his room all serious like, "Who is she?" Until, "When are you gonna lie to me?" He froze and was like, "I'm so sorry, Katie, I can explain." Me joking, "Whoa, your acting has improved." He looked at me confused and smiled awkwardly, and that's when I knew I needed to use my sixth sense. One day, my car needed repairing at the garage, so I borrowed Danny's car to go to university. He could go on the subway while I hated it because it was too crowded and dirty. One morning, he told me that he'd left his stuff at home and needed his car to get home. Then he would park it back at mine. That afternoon, when I got in the car to go home, I tried looking around to see if there was anything suspicious, and unexpectedly, I discovered a girl's long hair, which was dark blonde, obviously not mine. Then I looked at the mileage. It had raised by at least 50 miles, which I thought was strange because from his house to my university wasn't that far. He'd definitely been somewhere else and not told me. I felt like a crazy obsessive girlfriend, but something was definitely up and I intended to find out what it was. His Instagram was pretty tedious. He just follows a few basketball players and some of his favorite men clothing stores. Yawn. As I scrolled through it, it seemed like he was a good boy, and I was just being too suspicious. Maybe the blonde hair I found was his friend's. My relief didn't last for long. As I scrolled to the bottom of his page, I found out that he followed an account that matched his name. An account that I didn't know about, a suspicious sign. So this was his main account with lots of photos of his basketball team, daily activities, and so on, but none of my photos. I stalked that account and sat there for 5 hours reading every single comment and like in every photo he posted, and I noticed a girl who regularly drops his photos, hearts, and likes starting 3 years ago. I know this girl. Aubrey used to study with me when I was in secondary school, and now she goes to the same university as Danny. When I went to look at her Instagram, it looked like she had a boyfriend, but the photos were not clear of his face. It seemed like she's deliberately hiding her boyfriend. Then all of a sudden, I came across a very familiar image. That was Danny's basketball shoes, the ones signed by Kobe Bryant, the basketball legend he loved. Those shoes were one of a kind, and he loved them more than his life, so there was no way he could let anyone else wear them. So Aubrey's mystery boyfriend was also my boyfriend. I felt so sick. How could he have done this to me? This was the boy who had made me maple syrup pancakes and brought them to me in bed, who once stayed by my side all night when I was home alone and freaked out after the neighbor's break-in, and who always kissed me on my forehead and told me he loved me. It had all been a lie. I was just a third person in their long-term love, the one that everyone hates, but I had no idea. I never would have gone near him if I'd known. Anger welled up inside me, but I knew that I needed to think smart. Breaking up with Danny and throwing his stuff out of the window wasn't the answer. Yet. I spent ages typing a message to Aubrey where I told her everything. Then I hit send. She rang me straight away and we talked through the whole thing. She seemed more receptive to this news than I ever thought. She said that she had an intuition. She said he wanted to hide their relationship because he didn't want his family and school to know. I told you guys, the sixth sense of woman is never wrong. I set up a group chat called Sherlock Holmes and added Aubrey, Carla, and a few other female friends to it. We came up with a plan to uncover Danny's two-timing fake face. It was hard, but Aubrey and I kept on pretending like everything was fine. I went on date nights with Danny as usual, even though I had to grit my teeth at times to resist kicking him. The one thing Danny loves more than anything else in life is basketball. So naturally, our plan involved his precious game. He was participating in a friendly basketball match between universities, so Aubrey and I showed up early and stuck all the pictures with mine and Aubrey's faces blurred on the floor of the school's basketball court before the match took place. There were banners saying Danny is a love rat and never trust a fake Danny. Danny looked mortified as he tore up the pictures and ripped down the banners, while Aubrey and I stood there laughing. It sucks that Danny cheated on us, but on the plus side, I made a great friend with Aubrey out of it. Now, we have loads of new members in the Sherlock Holmes group. Cheating guys, beware, as a woman's intuition always wins out.
I walked into the cafeteria and gulped. The only free seat was next to Joanna, one of the weirdest girls in school. She was always sitting alone, and usually I'd avoid her because people said she didn't speak much and was totally shy. But somehow, I felt kinda sorry for her. I mean, how bad could it be? Well, famous last words. It was bad. I sat down with a smile, but she just glared at me and grunted, "Go on then. Throw me your worst insult." I was confused and said, "Oh, no, I just wanted to sit here and say hi. Are you okay?" Suddenly, Joanna started speaking at 1,000,000 miles per hour, telling me that of course she wasn't okay and that she had to see a therapist every day. Then she showed me all the pills she had to take and said she had crippling anxiety. I was shocked. Overwhelmed with TMI, I felt uncomfortable and thought of leaving, but then she grabbed my hand and said,
We're friends now, right? I've never had a friend in my life before. You're the first person I've really been able to open up to. Not even my parents know how hard it is for me. Whoa, I couldn't leave her now. I patted on her shoulder and told her I'd happily be her friend. I mean, it would just be spending some lunch together or grabbing a coffee at most. It'd be fine. However, Joanna's interpretation of a friend was slightly different from mine. 3 days later, I got back from the library quite late, so I went straight to my room as usual and started changing, only to find Joanna right behind me as I turned around. I almost woke up the whole building with a scream of fright. "Oh, hey, Rumi," she said with a big grin. What? This was insane. Rumi? What do you mean? But she just laughed and said she'd felt very lonely in her dorm on her own, and seeing as I had a double room, she'd asked the dorm supervisor if she could move in with me. I guess it wasn't so bad. I mean, I got lonely too sometimes. So that night, we stayed up super late chatting. And to be honest, it was actually nice to have a roomie. We became quite close, and a few nights later, we were having a movie night. Joanna turned to me and said, "Carrie, there's something I need to tell you." Oh no, surely there wasn't any more disturbing things left. How did this girl cope? But then she started blushing and said, "I have a crush on someone. His name is Mitch." Oh gosh, I knew exactly who she was talking about. "Joanna, he's bad news. He's a total womanizer. You're way too good for him." At least, that's what I said, but what I meant was that he was only into popular girls. He'd never go for a girl like Joanna. Joanna didn't take it well. "You're jealous, aren't you? I bet you have a crush on him too." "Well, I confessed, so he's mine." Huh, you're welcome to him. I never fancy someone like Mitch. I'm not that kind of girl. Joanna then said she'd prove to me that she could win him over. I felt annoyed at her and just went back to watching the movie. For a second there, it felt like my life had way more drama than ever before, and I started regretting ever sitting at her table that day. Little did I know, it was just the beginning. A week later, I was hit in the face by a huge surprise. Joanna and Mitch started dating. I was lying there listening to music when I heard voices outside the door. I opened it, and there was Mitch walking off. He turned back to blow Joanna a kiss, and then you should have seen the smug expression on her face. "Told ya," she said, laughing. Wow, cocky. But okay, I was happy for her. She was a woman of her word. But I was worried she'd get hurt. I didn't have time to tell her this, though, because pretty soon she was with him 24/7. He even came over to our dorm, and I was sick of listening to them kissing. They were disgustingly lovey-dovey all the time, and it quickly became exhausting. On Valentine's Day, he sent 100 balloons to our dorm, and I couldn't even get through the door. Could he be any more over the top? It wasn't even that romantic. But Joanna was smitten. It was painful to watch. But not as painful as seeing Mitch walking along the street holding some other girl's hand. I froze. This couldn't be. I quickly texted Joanna asking her how things were going between her and Mitch. She replied immediately saying, "All good, why?" So I told her what I'd seen, but I got no reply. I rushed back to our dorm and asked her why she was ignoring me and if she was okay. But she just started shouting at me, saying I was trying to ruin her relationship because I was jealous. Clearly, she didn't believe me. I told her I was telling the truth, but she just got up and left, slamming the door behind her. Things got really awkward after that. She ignored me in the dorm, ignored me in class, and wouldn't reply to any of my texts. And she still brought Mitch back to our room and kissed him in front of me. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore and asked her to move out. But I didn't expect what would happen next. Joanna lost it. She started shouting, What's your problem? For the first time in my life, I'm happy, and someone loves me. And there you are, trying to ruin this for me. And now you want to kick me out? It's not my fault you're single, Carrie. Maybe if you stopped being so jealous for a second, someone would like you back. I couldn't believe her. I wanted to scream. She was the worst. And the next morning, it got even worse. I was sitting with some friends before class started when suddenly Joanna walked in and burst into tears. People ran over to her and asked if she was okay, and that's when my blood ran cold. She started saying how I'd been bad-mouthing her boyfriend, and now I wanted to kick her out of our dorm. And then I heard my voice. I looked over, and she had her phone out and was playing a recording of our argument. Of course, she'd edited it to make me sound like the bad guy. Even my friends looked shocked, and Joanna told them all how I was a two-faced, good-for-nothing kind of girl and that I loved to gossip about everyone behind their backs. I tried to explain to everyone that Joanna was lying and that she was just angry, but everyone looked at me in shock. It was like they believed her. I was stunned. The next day, I noticed Joanna showing my friends some photos on her phone. They were screenshots of texts from me, but she'd edited them to create a total monster out of me. One time, Joanna had messaged me laughing about how my friend Valerie had the worst hairstyle ever, and I joked that she must have cut it by herself. And there was the message where Joanna talked about how Mitch said his ex, Anna, who was also our class president, must have been flirting with the economics teacher to get good grades. And I said, has Anna sunk that low? Not only having an affair with a married man, but basically committing academic fraud? I don't think she would do that, though. But of course, Joanna had cropped out the last sentence, and she didn't show her parts in the conversation either. By that way, I looked like the worst friend ever. I tried to tell them what Joanna was doing, but they were too hurt to believe me. But that's not all. You see, Joanna had sent these messages to the whole school. For the rest of the day, people were coming up to me and telling me I was nothing but a mean girl. And then at lunch, I went to sit in my usual spot with my friends, and suddenly they all jumped up and left me there alone. I could hear everyone whispering about me. And then the most popular girl, Amy, came over to me and said I was a disappointment to this college, and I didn't even deserve to be here. I couldn't hold back my tears, so I rushed back to my dorm. But standing there with her arms folded, blocking the door, was the dorm supervisor. She said that she'd received reports about my behavior and that I had 1 week to move out of the dorm. I didn't understand. What had I done? Apparently, people had told her I wanted to get her fired. And then I remembered Joanna saying those exact words and asked me how she could report to the manager. So I'd sent her a text explaining how to report her. Oh my gosh, she'd even used that against me? This was too much. I went to find Joanna. I was furious. She was ruining my life. When I got to class, I planned to show everyone our full chat conversations, unedited. But I didn't get the chance because Joanna was sobbing hysterically, and everyone was comforting her. She was saying how living with me was torture, and that she had to take medication to deal with me. Enough! How dare you! I screamed. Why are you doing this to me? What did I ever do to you? Joanna, of course, started crying even louder, and everyone stared at me like they wanted to kill me. I walked out of there feeling completely empty. I'd lost my friends, my dorm, my reputation, and every last bit of dignity, all because of that snake. I still didn't know what I'd done wrong. The more I tried to understand it, the more everyone defended Joanna. It was useless. No one listened to me. Eventually, I ignored them all, moved out of the dorm, and acted like Joanna didn't exist. Fortunately, I made some new friends that loved and trusted me and never twisted my words. As for gossiping about me that everyone else still did, I learned to block it out. And then about 4 months later, I got an email from Joanna. I was shocked. She said, "Carrie, I'm sorry. You were right all along. Mitch was cheating on me, and I should have listened to you. Please forgive me. I'm begging you. I'll do anything to make it up to you. I'll confess to everyone. Please, let's just be friends again. I miss you. Ha! Not in a million years. I deleted the email right away. There was nothing that she could do to ever make it up to me. She'd ruined my life, and I was done with that toxicity. Good riddance.
I was out for my afternoon jog and decided to take a new route. Suddenly, I saw a huge European-style mansion and had to stop to gaze at it. The walls were covered in moss, and honestly, it looked pretty eerie. I looked up, and a flock of crows were standing on the roof cawing. It sent shivers up my spine, and immediately made me think of movies like The Conjuring or something. Wouldn't be surprised if that house was haunted. Suddenly, I got startled by the voice of an old lady.
The mansion looks magnificent, doesn't it?
I turned to look at her, and she continued.
But you'd better stay away from it.
Why? I asked her. Then she looked at me more closely and said,
Oh, you aren't a local here, are you?
I told her I was from Minnesota, but that my parents had said I could spend the summer here with my aunt.
Well, dear, let me tell you. The owner of this mansion was a young girl, super rich, but kept herself to herself. Rumor has it, she worshipped Satan. Can you believe it?
I asked her, So where is she now?
Oh, she mysteriously disappeared years ago, and the house has been abandoned ever since,
the lady replied. Okay, this was seriously freaky. My hair was literally standing on end. But for some reason, I was more intrigued than ever. Oh, sorry, I should have introduced myself. I'm Ellie, a typical high school student, but also an avid detective story blogger. I spend a lot of my time on detective story forums and have always been attracted to weird and mysterious things ever since I was a little kid. Anyway, back to my story. So, one night, my aunt asked me to pop over to the grocery store to get some milk. On my way back, I passed the mansion and instantly got shivers. I looked up and saw a light flickering in a window on the second floor, like a candle or something. But no way. The old lady said the place was abandoned, right? The light kept flickering, and I couldn't stop watching. Suddenly, a shadow of a girl appeared. She was playing the violin, and the gloomy music was wafting through the cracks in the walls. Then, out of nowhere, a crow flew by screaming, "Gah!" I almost leapt out of my skin and ran straight home. How could anyone live in that freaky mansion? Wait a minute. What if I'd just seen the ghost of the owner who disappeared? Oh man, I had to figure this mystery out. I could even turn it into a detective story with a bit of horror thrown in for fun. As I lay there, I came up with the title, Real Life Death Mansion. And then I realized I could even make a YouTube video about it with real photos of the house and maybe even some footage taken inside as I uncover the mystery. Oh, this would be so good! I could barely sleep from excitement, and the next day, I asked my cousin Susan to come along and explore the mansion with me. Hey Susan, want to come check out that creepy mansion with me?
OMG, Ellie, are you crazy? You know that place is haunted, right? Like, full of ghosts and everything.
Yeah, that's why I asked you to go with me. I shrugged.
I would rather make a detour than walk past that house to get home. So what makes you think I would dare to go inside?
I tried to convince her it would be fun, but she kept refusing. Oh well, if no one dared to go into that mansion, then I shall be the first. Gathering up my courage, I went there alone. I managed to climb over the rusty iron fence that had almost fallen to pieces in the backyard. Then I noticed a door that was slightly ajar. As I got closer, I realized a satanic symbol was engraved on the door. Creepy! I closed my eyes, held my breath, and gently pushed the door open. The smell that hit me made me feel dizzy. A musty, abandoned kind of smell. I walked into the lounge, and it felt like I just walked into some old castle in France or something. There were cobwebs everywhere, and some massive ones hanging from the chandeliers. I looked around and noticed a portrait of a girl on the wall. She was beautiful, but her eyes looked so sad. Oh my, was this the owner? The one I'd seen playing the violin? I couldn't bear to look at the portrait any longer. It felt like her eyes were piercing my soul. I headed for the stairs and crept up as quietly as possible. I won't lie, I was terrified. It was so dark up there, and with every step I took, the floorboards creaked. I kept looking behind me, as it sounded like someone was following me. By this point, I'd broken out into a cold sweat. When I made it to the second floor, there was a long corridor ahead, but it was really weird. There was only one door. I walked towards it and pushed it open. It was a luxury room, definitely fit for a princess. And yup, there was the violin. Everything was coated in a thick layer of dust, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a picture. It was the same girl, but this time, her eyes were glowing red like fire, just like Sauron, the villain in The Lord of the Rings. I was so scared that I quickly turned the photo face down. This was when I heard the violin sound from somewhere. Okay, what was going on? The violin was right before my eyes, and I was supposed to be the only one in the house? I tried to calm down, took a deep breath, and walked in the direction of the sound next door. It was so weird, because the next door was an exact replica of the first room. Had I actually changed rooms? I walked towards the dressing table and noticed the photo in here was also turned face down. I picked it up, and it was the exact same photo, but this time, the face of the girl was bleached white. I dropped the photo in horror and ran off without looking back. I ran down the stairs 3 at a time, but when I reached the door, it was locked. I started banging on it, and by then I was hysterically crying. "Help! Help me!" I screamed. Suddenly, someone's hand touched my shoulder. My heart had definitely jumped out of my chest. Ah! I yelled at the top of my lungs, but when I turned around, there was this young guy standing there. A pretty cute one. Who are you?" I stuttered. He frowned at me and said, "Who are you? And why are you here?" I could barely speak as I was shaking so much. Then the guy said, "Come on, let's get out of here. You look horrified." Then he took out a key and opened the door. Are you a ghost or something?" I stuttered. He started laughing and said, "Pretty creepy place, right?" I asked him if he saw the photos too, and he said, "Yes, terrifying. Like something out of a horror movie," I added. "Exactly. Perfect setting for a horror movie." I stared in confusion, and he laughed and said, "Yup, we're making a movie. I mean, I'm gonna rent this place to make a horror movie." Then he introduced himself as Jack, a young director who was interested in detective and horror movies. He was just checking the place out to see if it was suitable. I couldn't believe it. Wow, this is literally a dream come true. I've been writing detective stories since I could hold a pen, and I've always hoped I'd become a screenwriter on horror and detective movies one day. I'm so honored to meet you. I'm Ellie, by the way. Then Jack replied, "The pleasure's all mine. It's a pretty exciting industry to be in. I'd love to read some of your stuff sometime." I couldn't stop grinning. Then suddenly, another person showed up. Jack introduced him as Michael, a member of his film crew. But compared to how friendly Jack was, Mike was serious and intimidating. Jack could tell that I was nervous, so he laughed and said, "Michael's been under a lot of stress, so he looks a bit grumpy, right?" I just smiled shyly and asked Jack if I could have his number. As I walked home, I couldn't believe how happy I felt. Who knew such a scary adventure would turn into an epic opportunity? I texted Jack right away, saying I would love to learn more about his film, and I had to admit, I might have had a slight crush on him. He was so cute. I kept checking my phone, but he hadn't replied. That was so disappointing. But then, a few days later, he asked me out for coffee. I was so excited, and seriously, we had the best time. He even offered to drive me home. When I got into the car, he told me to close my eyes. Eek! Maybe he was going to kiss me. I was so nervous, but suddenly, something hit my face, and I didn't know anything else. When I woke up, I found myself in some kind of warehouse, with my hands and feet tied, and my mouth taped shut. Oh my God, had I been kidnapped? Where was Jack? Suddenly, I heard a noise outside. I looked through the window and saw Jack and Michael talking to each other. What? Did the two of them plan this? But why? A moment later, Michael left, and Jack came towards me and removed the tape from my mouth. I started screaming, "Why are you doing this to me?" Then Jack said, "Listen, I'm not going to hurt you, I swear, but there's something I need to tell you." Then he confessed that he was a member of a criminal organization named Iron Gloves. His gang were operating from the mansion, and so everything from the story of the mysterious missing girl, the ghost playing the violin, the eerie photos, were all made up by them. They did it so that no one would dare approach their headquarters. According to the gang's rules, any outsider that entered the mansion would be killed to protect the secrecy of the group. Michael had seen me enter and reported it to the boss. So Jack had been forced to carry out the mission, but he didn't want to do it, so that's why he pretended to kidnap me. Dear good God, this was too much! He asked me to leave right away, but I was worried about him. He said, "Don't worry, I've been wanting to leave for a long time, and so I have a plan." Fast forward 2 years, and now I'm a freshman majoring in screenwriting. It's so exciting chasing my passion, but I still think that summer at my aunt's was one of my best yet. Terrifying, but thrilling. Oh, and as for Jack, after we chatted in the warehouse, he let me go, and I quickly packed up all my stuff at my aunt's and flew home. A few weeks later, I saw an article that said he'd turned himself in, and that the police had caught the Iron Gloves gang. Now, Jack's in prison, but will soon be free. I have a feeling that deep down, he's a good guy, and I hope that I'll have the chance to meet him again and get to know the real him better. Who knows? His real-life experience might help me write one hell of an awesome story, too.
Now, where is her turquoise scarf? That will definitely complete my look. I was raiding Mom's closet to find it when I accidentally dropped a belt on the floor. But strangely enough, it made a really weird sound. So I gave it a few knocks. Wait, it did sound like the ground was hollow. I took a closer look. And oh my God, there was a hidden hatch or something in my mom's closet. Of course, I had to figure this out. So after a few attempts, I finally managed to open it and found a big wooden box. Why was she keeping something a secret from us? I took a deep breath and I opened the box. There were some old pics of my mom when she was younger, an old teddy bear, and some cassette tapes. Why on earth did she have to hide these? I dug even deeper and found a stack of letters. All of them were from the same address. Hang on, I knew that place. It was an orphanage just outside the city. So far, nothing made sense to me, so obviously I had to read them. They were all from this orphanage sister called Anna Maria. She kept writing about some girl named Eliza, and the more I read, I eventually realized that this girl, Eliza, was my mom's daughter. That meant I had a half-sister? I couldn't believe it. And from the sounds of things, my mom hadn't seen Eliza since the day she'd dropped her at the orphanage. So my mom didn't even know what she looked like after all these years? This was insane! How could Mom have done this? Not to mention the fact my dad is a politician, so I'd been raised to always be a good person, just like them. But after what I just found out, I didn't know what to believe anymore. This is so absurd. But one thing was for sure, I had to find Eliza. The next day after school, I went to the orphanage. I told Anna Maria everything, and then she said that Eliza had left when she turned 18, but that she came back every weekend to help out. She then gave me Eliza's home address. I followed Google Maps and ended up in a seriously creepy neighborhood. As I knocked on her door, a billion questions ran through my head. What if she didn't want anything to do with us? What if she hated me because I stole this great life that was supposed to be hers? But there was no backing down now. As soon as the door opened, I froze. Could this really be my half-sister? Standing there was this tall, mysterious-looking girl. I was trembling as I said, "Hi, are you Eliza?" She just gave me a skeptic look, then replied, "Why? Who are you?" I couldn't hold back my tears and said, "I can't believe I found you. I'm Alicia, your half-sister." Eliza looked shocked and then said, "Oh, okay, calm down. Come on in, then we'll talk." I sat on the couch and told her everything. Then she began to tell me how miserable her life was, how she worked 4 jobs and it still wasn't enough to pay the bills. Gosh, I felt so guilty hearing all of this. How was it fair that I had a carefree, happy life and she'd been left all alone? I couldn't leave Eliza like that. I had to do something. After that, I rushed home and dragged Mom to my room so I could speak to her privately. I confronted her, and at first she denied it, but she eventually burst into tears and admitted everything. I couldn't believe my ears when I heard the whole story. When she was 18, she'd given birth to Eliza, but Eliza's dad wouldn't take any responsibility. So my mom decided to raise Eliza on her own. It was tough for her, as she didn't have a decent job. Then after about 6 months, my dad appeared and showed interest in her, and because he came from a wealthy family, my mom jumped at the chance to be with him. However, she thought that if he knew about Eliza, he wouldn't be keen. So with a heavy heart, she decided to send Eliza to the orphanage. Ever since then, she'd sent a letter to Anna Maria every year on Eliza's birthday. But she asked her not to send any photos of Eliza, as it was too painful to see. I couldn't believe my mom gave up her daughter for money. I begged my mom to meet up with Eliza. She at least owed her that. I explained how miserable Eliza's life was, and how she didn't deserve that. Finally, my mom agreed. So the next day, she picked me up from school and we went to Eliza's. As soon as my mom saw her, they were hugging and crying, and my mom was shocked at the shabby state of Eliza's place and immediately told her to come live with us. Oh, wow, Mom! I'm glad that we're reunited, but wasn't that decision too impulsive? What about Dad? Well, of course he was super shocked. My mom sat him down and explained who Eliza was, but he didn't take it well, and they ended up getting into a huge fight, which resulted in my dad moving out. I couldn't believe it. So, from that moment on, it was just me, my mom, and Eliza. I missed my dad so much, but it felt kind of nice to suddenly have a sister. I'd always wanted a sibling. We could hang out together, gossip, go shopping. OMG! This was going to be so much fun. But turns out it wouldn't be as fun as I'd hoped. One night, Eliza was watching a movie. I sat down next to her and said, "Oh man, I love this movie, but I can't stand the female lead. Her voice is so annoying." I turned to check on Eliza's reaction, but she stayed stiff as a board. So I continued. "In fact, she sounds just like my friend Kayla." Still no replying from Eliza. In fact, she didn't even look at me. Was she even listening? Well, clearly she was, because a few days later, my friends came over, including Kayla. And when Eliza passed us, she said, "Bet that annoying Kayla girl you told me about isn't here, right?" Oh my God. I literally froze. How could she say that right in front of everyone? In front of Kayla? I was mortified. And the worst part was that Kayla didn't want to be my friend anymore after that. Even my other friends stopped hanging out with me. They thought I was just another mean girl. And that wasn't all. Eliza started acting really weird. One day I came home from school to find her in my bedroom looking at my old photos. Then when she saw me, she said in a creepy voice, "You're so lucky you weren't abandoned like me." My God, that gave me chills. Then later that night, I overheard her asking our mom if she could get an allowance to make up for lost time. Oh, wow. But that was only fair, right? Well, the next day, I couldn't find my fave lipstick. and given that Eliza recently had unannounced visits to my room, I went to ask her. But she just shrugged and said, "Yeah, I took it. So what?" Whoa. Since when did she become so rude? Hang on, she was also wearing my floral dress. That was it. I'd had enough. I went straight to my mom and told her what Eliza had done. I expected my mom to be on my side, but she wasn't. She told me to be more understanding as Eliza wasn't used to being around other people, so she needed some time to adapt. That's ridiculous. And then it got even worse. She started to target my dad. "You should divorce him. The way he just left you like that, what an awful husband," she told my mom when the two of them were preparing dinner. "You could claim ownership of everything. You just need to prove that he's cheating on you, or that he's corrupt or something. I mean, he's a politician, so I'm sure he's doing at least one of those things." I honestly couldn't believe what I was hearing. I stormed into the room and started shouting at Eliza to stop trash-talking my dad. Then I turned to Mom. "Don't listen to her poisoned lies." But Mom just sighed and replied, "Eliza isn't entirely wrong. Your dad did just leave us, and he hasn't even called. Clearly, he's having an affair." OMG, that snake was brainwashing my mom. A few days later, I saw an article that my dad was charged for corruption. How was that even possible? My dad is a good man. There must be a misunderstanding or something. Could it be something to do with Eliza? "It was you, wasn't it? You accused my dad of corruption." I stormed in and screamed at Eliza. My mom was shocked and said, "Alicia, what are you talking about?" So I told my mom that Eliza must have planned this, and my mom said, "Don't be absurd. She has nothing to gain from that. Stop speaking nonsense and apologize to Eliza." "Mom, I think I know what this is about. Alicia hates me, so she's starting to make up lies about me. In fact, you should be careful that she isn't a pathological liar or something. Or maybe even worse, she could have a mental disorder." My mom then said, "You're right, sweetie. Alicia, you need help. I'm going to make a hospital appointment for you." What? Was she serious? I tried to convince her that I was fine, but she wouldn't listen. I then turned to Eliza. "You won't get away with this." The next day, my mom tried to get me to go to the hospital, but I locked my bedroom door and refused to leave. But it didn't take long for her to find the spare key, and this time she came back with some dudes next door to help hold me down. I tried my best to break free, but it was hopeless. At that exact moment, I heard my dad's voice. "Let her go." I looked up and saw my dad was with a woman. My mom looked horrified and said, "How dare you bring your mistress into our home?" But my dad said, "It's not what it looks like, honey. This is Eliza, the real Eliza. That woman over there is an imposter. Her real name is Kim." OMG! I knew something was wrong with her. You might be wondering why my dad suddenly appeared. Well, I called him the day before and asked him to investigate Eliza, as I had a feeling there was something fishy going on. He went to the orphanage to get more info, and the sisters there kept saying Eliza was the sweetest woman, and that if he waited, he could meet her. Well, then the real Eliza turned up, and that's when my dad found out the truth. Turns out Kim was once Eliza's roommate. Eliza had moved out, but the sisters at the orphanage didn't know this, so they still gave me the old address. Eliza knew about my mom the whole time as she'd found the letters, but she was still mad about being abandoned, so wasn't ready to meet her. She told Kim everything about my family and how wealthy we were, so when I went by the old address and asked about Eliza, Kim seized the opportunity to steal Eliza's identity. My dad pointed at Kim and said, "I'll give you 10 seconds to get out of my house or I'll call the police. Don't you ever come near my family again." Kim fled immediately, and we never saw her again. As for the real Eliza, well, that was quite the reunion. At first it didn't go well, but gradually Eliza opened up to my mom, and of course my dad's corruption charges were dropped after he was found innocent. He also forgave my mom and moved back in. Eliza visits us often, and I have to say, it's exactly what I hoped having a big sister would feel like. I'm so glad we're all reunited now.
Why haven't the results of the sketch contest been published yet?
Hey guys, the results are over here.
Frantically, I ran to the results board. Julie Morris, the first place on the list. Phew! Congrats, Julie. You deserve it. You're both pretty and talented. Is there anything you can't do? Oh, how I adore receiving high praises from everyone like that. But what's that sound? I turned around and it was just Kate. Normally she'd win for sure, but let's check out her rank. Oh, here at the bottom. It was all because of the school logo in ink on the body of the pencil she used that day. Kate's hands got sweaty easily, so when drawing, the ink stained her hand and she accidentally smeared it all over her paper. Poor you, Kate. But you know what? I'm just simply better than you. Now, all that was left between me and one of the 3 golden tickets to a design summer camp in Italy was one last contest. There's one problem. This new girl called Ariana. Unfortunately, just so happens to be a talented designer.
Julie, are you okay? Miss, Julie fainted.
A boy shouted loudly and frantically took me to the first aid room. Yeah, so now here I am. But hey, don't worry, actually. I'm not ill at all. I was just pretending so I could skip PE class to carry out my plan. As I walked into class, I saw everyone buzzing around Ariana's desk. I asked my friend what happened, and she said someone had spilled coffee all over her drawing. Ariana was all panicking and kept checking her watch. She'd still have to redraw it, but time was running out. Suddenly, a voice said, "Hey, someone dropped a necklace here. Maybe that's who did all this?" Subconsciously, I touched my neck, and uh-oh, it wasn't there. Then there was a hand on my shoulder that startled me to turn around. It was Rebecca.
If I'm not mistaken, this is yours, right?
She glared at me. That's my necklace. But so how did it end up under Ariana's desk? At that moment, I was so shaken that I couldn't say a word. Luckily for me, Ariana piped in. I think it's just a coincidence. Julie would never do something like this. Everyone agreed with her, saying that a sweet girl like me would never do such a mean thing. It's okay. Rebecca was just confused. That's all. No worries. Ugh, how dare Rebecca accuse me? It's crazy to think we used to be besties. You see, I've known her since childhood, as our parents are friends. But then she grew up and turned into this awful know-it-all. But hey, I needed to put it aside. I had to focus on my own design. Just because I'd sabotaged Ariana's design didn't mean I could let my guard down. It was an anxious wait to find out if I'd made the summer camp list. Though I shouldn't have to be that stressed, as of course, I was in. Turns out, even though Ariana had to redraw in a rush, she still got one slot too. But the last slot went to Rebecca? Huh? I didn't know she was also into fashion design. Anyway, whatever, Rebecca. She was never my match. So, ta-da! Finally, I'm here in Milan, the fashion capital of the world. And guess what? During the summer camp, there will be various competitions, and the best will win a scholarship to the Polytechnic University of Milan. Unbelievable! I've been dreaming about this for a long time. No one was going to stand in my way. The camp was amazing. I enjoyed visiting museums and studying courses in fashion history, choosing clothing material, and cutting techniques. Then, our first test was announced, completing basic sewing skills in the fastest time. Easy peasy! I've even taken some classes on tailoring before, so of course it didn't bother me. Seeing everyone struggling to complete their products, I smiled and confidently pressed the end time button. However, at the same time, someone else hit their button too. Rebecca. Of course, the judges loved my work, but watching them praise Rebecca's work sucked. Ugh! How can someone who has never taken a sewing class be so good? The 2 weeks of summer camp flew by, but then the last challenge arrived, which would decide the winner. Each candidate got a large piece of cloth, and this is all we would be given, which meant no room for mistakes. Everyone was trying to focus and design with maximum intensity. I glanced at Rebecca, who seemed to almost be finished with the dress. And to be honest, her white dress looked quite simple but elegant. Suddenly, it got me anxious. Ugh! Since when did she become such a pain in the neck? We had a little break at noon, so everyone went out for lunch. Meanwhile, I stayed back a little longer trying to finish the test. I just didn't feel like eating, knowing that my dress was not perfect yet. But only, I wasn't able to concentrate on my design. I kept staring at Rebecca's mannequin instead. Should I do this or not? If anyone finds out, then everything will be over. But if I lose, then my dreams will be shattered anyway. Something inside of me kept urging me to go straight to Rebecca's work and immediately splash ink on that white dress. My heart thudded with a mixture of excitement and guilt. Then I quickly fled the scene. When everyone returned to the room and saw Rebecca's dress, they gasped in shock. Huh? Why was Rebecca the only one not panicking? She calmly took a brush, dipped it in the inkwell, and walked towards the dress. Then she started splashing ink over it. What was she playing at? My question was immediately answered when a very unique ink-patterned dress appeared in front of my eyes. Worse still, the judges' faces lit up when they saw it, and they highly appreciated her problem-solving skills. Congrats, Rebecca. You did a good job. Nah, thanks to you, Julie. Let's see who wins. Rebecca sneered and walked away. What did she mean by that? Did she know that I was the one who did it? I was so worried that I tossed and turned all night. Hey, Julie, wake up. You can't be late for the last challenge. Oh, hi, Ariana. What are you saying? Uh-oh. Hang on. How come it was still the 23rd of July? Had I dreamt it all? But it was so strange. Things actually happened exactly like that dream. The ink incident with Rebecca's dress, and her quick thinking to rescue it. Anyways, keep calm. I couldn't let this scholarship slide. I couldn't be that girl that lost out on my dream to someone else. The shame would be unbearable. After finishing the design, each of us would have a model to present it. At that point, I made a crazy decision. Right before the performance, I quickly followed Rebecca's model to the restroom, locked the door from the outside, then put the out of service sign in front of it. When all the contestants settled down to watch the show, Rebecca still didn't turn up. Well, maybe she was still busy looking for a substitute model. Give up yet, Rebecca? I was laughing to myself when my thoughts of victory were interrupted by applause and whistles. Huh? On the catwalk. Is that Rebecca? Wearing her own design? Ariana whispered into my ear. Rebecca is stunning. She totally deserves this scholarship, right, Julie? What? How could Rebecca surpass me again? Hey, Julie, wake up. You can't be late for the last challenge. What? It's still the 23rd of July? Hang on. This meant Rebecca hadn't won yet, and I still had a chance. This time, I decided not to mess up Rebecca's dress. Instead, I looked up online some ideas to improve my own design, and I discovered a wonderful design on a fashion blog, which was quite similar to what Rebecca was doing. Ha! Turned out Little Miss Perfect was just an idea thief. So I decided to design the exact same dress, and 1 hour right before the show, it was time to pull the trigger. I reported to the judge that Rebecca stole my idea and claimed myself to be the owner of that blog. But instead of any sign of panic, a smirk lit up on Rebecca's face as she turned to me and said, "Game over, Julie." Then she went straight to the judge. I didn't know what she told them, but they disqualified me right after. Excuse me? I couldn't breathe or think or anything. I pointed at Rebecca and yelled, "She's the thief! There's something wrong here!" Then Rebecca calmly approached me. "Nice try, Julie, but your dirty tricks won't fool me. I know it was you that ruined Kate and Ariana's projects. And guess who is the real owner of that blog? Yep, me." I stared at her in shock as she continued to talk about the real reason why she stopped being friends with me. She said it was all because of my jealousy, which had turned me into such a mean girl. Julie, you're beautiful and talented. You need to believe in your own abilities instead of sabotaging other people's work. don't be that type of person. I woke up sweating. I reached for the phone and it was still the 23rd of July. Ugh! Would this day please be over already? But maybe this was good, as this meant I had a chance to put things right. Lunchtime arrived, and I lingered behind and looked at Rebecca's perfect dress. I hovered my hand over the ink bottle, but then I left it where it was. Sighed, then walked back over to my own dress. So, what happened? Well, Rebecca still won, but you know what? It's okay. I tried my best, I didn't cheat, and, well, Rebecca's dress was a worthy winner. After the competition, I saw some of the other girls congratulating Rebecca, so I walked over and tapped her on the shoulder, and giving her a sincere smile said, "I just wanted to say congrats. Your design's amazing." "Thanks, Julie. I really love your dress too. Your stitching was so precise." Okay, so I didn't win, but I did learn a valuable lesson. I should always give 100% in what I do, instead of wasting so much time and energy trying to ruin things for other people. Oh, and about that time loop, I put it down to competition stress. I think it must have made me feel like I was stuck in a dream world until I learned the error of my ways. Finally, I've found inner peace, and I'm finally out of that dream. I have to admit, I did whoop when I woke up, and it was finally the 24th of July. This was like a dream come true. That gorgeous man in front of me is Ethan, my crush since I was just 14. Back then, Ethan was my dad's business partner, so he'd often come over to our house for dinner. For years, I adored him in secret. But now, at 19, I could finally be honest about my feelings. So, when I ran into him by chance in the grocery store, I felt like it was meant to be. He invited me for a drink in the cafe nearby, and we instantly hit it off. We started dating, and now we're an official couple. There's just one thing that worries me. Ethan is recently divorced and has a 10-year-old daughter, Clarice, who he has full-time. While daydreaming, I couldn't hide away from the thought of being someone's stepmom. Oh my, I didn't want to become a mom yet. Don't worry, Clarice is a cute kid. I just know you two will get along. Clarice gave me a devious smile the moment she saw me. Another fish got hooked. Huh? Hey, that's not the right manner. Apologize, now! Ethan immediately said. Clarice let out a loud, "Ugh," then reluctantly apologized. Great! When has it ever been easy to be friends with a naughty 10-year-old girl? I understand this better than most, as I have a little sister. She's either giving me a headache or crazing at me for candy, and I could tell that Clarice was going to be no different. One day, Ethan called me in a panic, saying he had an urgent business trip. They informed me at the very last minute. I didn't have time to find a babysitter. Can you help me take care of Clarice for a few days? What? I've only just met the girl, and now I have to mind her for a few days? I still didn't know what to say when Ethan continued. I'll make it up to you after this. And then, the next thing I knew, Clarice was at my front door. Oh gosh, somebody help me! Well, you know those girls that age, like my little sister? I kept pouring out while Mike just smiled and slightly shook his head. I have to make her like me to win over Ethan. So, lovely Mike, can you please come hang out with us? Seriously? Please? Aren't you good with the ladies? Fine. You know I can't say no to you. I took Clarice to a theme park. She frowned the moment she saw Mike. Who's this? I don't like strangers. I smiled and said, "This is Mike. He's really cool and I don't care." Cindy, what kind of situation did you drag me into? Man, I had to ask myself that question. This wasn't what I envisioned it to be. The outing turned into a competition between them. Clarice challenged Mike to play game after game with her until she won. In the end, they played with the water guns, and I knew for sure Mike let her win. But as soon as he let go of his water gun, Clarice squirted water all over him, leaving him completely drenched. Oops. What on earth is this?
That's the price for the loser.
Okay, Cindy, that's enough. Have fun. And he stormed off. Oh no! What have I done to him? I stood there dumbfounded, staring at Clarice. Okay, so it was kind of funny, but I couldn't laugh at my poor friend.
I want ice cream.
Clarice grinned, then skipped away. Ice cream. A girl after my own heart. On the way home, we talked so much about her fave show, The Babysitter's Club, and how Stacy is her favorite character. Maybe the day wasn't so bad after all. A few days later, Ethan returned, and I was really excited to see him. Thank you so much for taking care of Clarice. Meanwhile, I noticed Clarice was slowly backing out, with an awkward look on her face. I thought she'd be as happy as me to see him, but it didn't seem that way. Darling, are you okay? Are you sick?
I'm okay. I need to go to my room.
After that, at dinner, the question, "Are you sick?" was raised no less than 10 times, and it made me feel sick too.
I said I'm not sick, and I don't want to see a doctor.
Ethan, I think Clarice is fine, so maybe stop asking her. Hearing that, Ethan seemed uncomfortable and turned away. Weird. What was wrong with them? Maybe this was just something they did. Whatever it is, I wasn't enjoying this heavy atmosphere. The next day after lunch, Clarice was helping me clean the table while Ethan was packing to go on his next trip. She insisted on washing the dishes while I said goodbye to Ethan. We were hugging in the doorway when suddenly I heard a loud scream coming from the kitchen. Ethan and I both rushed in there and saw Clarice crying as she gripped her hand. Ethan frantically asked, "What happened?" while I quickly searched for a first aid kit.
I was washing the dishes, but I accidentally cut my hand. Cindy, I'm sorry. I wasn't being careful. Please don't punish me.
What? What was she talking about? Ethan seemed to have the same question as me.
Cindy always makes me do the chores. She told me if I do them badly, I can't have dinner.
Huh? Why was she saying things that weren't true? Turning pale with shock, I muttered out, "No, that's not true. I
don't want to stay here. Dad, let me go home."
Clarice interrupted me as she was crying harder. "I'm so sorry, but I have to go now. I don't even know if you're lying or not."
"How can you say that to me?"
Clarice shouted.
"You monster!"
Then she ran upstairs. I stood there not knowing what to do. My brain couldn't process what just happened. Ethan looked at me and sighed. Why didn't he say anything? He didn't honestly think I was capable of doing that. Did he? I decided I needed to confront Clarice about this. So I went up to her room and calmly said, "Clarice, why did you say that?"
"You forced me to do all the chores."
"What? How can you lie like that? I never do such a thing."
"Oh, but are people gonna believe you or a poor little girl?"
Oh my God. There was me, thinking she was a sweet kid, when in actual fact, she was the complete opposite. I rushed outside and, shaking, I pulled my phone out. I called Mike and told him everything. "Oh boy, that kid is complicated. Maybe she doesn't want you to be with her dad. But even so, what she did was weird. I think you should stay away from them." But how to? I couldn't just run away. Besides, Ethan was on his trip, again, and I was in charge of her. So I kept my distance, no more talking or having fun. But it seemed that Clarice had other ideas. I was watching TV in the living room when Clarice appeared and pulled my shirt.
"Cindy, I want you to play video games with me."
The more silent I was, the harder she pulled. "No, Clarice, I'm not in the mood," I shouted. "Go play by yourself." Then I walked off. A few minutes later, Cass, a senior student, came over to give me some documents. We sat down and had some iced tea. Then suddenly, bam! And a cry. Oh no! Cass and I rushed to the noise. Clarice had fallen down the stairs in the basement and was surrounded by the laundry basket and dirty clothes. Cass quickly ran down there and helped her up. Are you okay? What happened?
Cindy told me to do the laundry in time. The basket was so full, so I slipped.
No, no, no! I screamed inside my head when Cass gave me a concerned look. Cass, please, I'll explain later. Can you please leave? Why? I screamed at Clarice's face the moment Cass left.
If you don't play with me, you'll be a child abuser. You'll have to go to jail.
Ugh, this is driving me crazy. Just a few days ago, she wanted her dad to take her away from here, and now she's blackmailing me for not playing with her? Right at that moment, Ethan called. Hi, Cindy. I just want to check on you two. Is Clarice sick or anything? Ugh, what on earth is this? Am I crazy? Or are these two actually weird? OMG. I need Mike. Now. Please, take me away from here, I said as I opened the door for Mike. Stop! Clarice shouted. You two can't go anywhere. Oh, now you're telling me what not to do?
If you go, I'll tell the whole world how badly you've been treating me. You'll both go to jail.
So that's your scam? Her smirk disappeared. She turned pale and stuttered.
No, it was my dad's.
Your dad's scam? Clarice looked flustered as she realized what she had just blurted out. Then she quickly covered it up.
Nothing!
Mike sat down and looked at her with stern eyes. I stood there, waiting for the answer.
My daddy made me!
Eventually, Clarice confessed. Turns out, Ethan was a professional scammer who scams young, wealthy girls into giving him money. Worse, he dragged his daughter into his scheme. The plan went like this. He used his handsome looks to flirt with the girls, then Clarice's cuteness to get the girls' empathy. After that, he would go on some last-minute business trip and ask them to take care of Clarice. Meanwhile, Clarice would pretend to be seriously sick. When Ethan arrived back, he would persuade the girls to hand over money for hospital fees, then he and Clarice would disappear out of their lives.
At first he told me to do what he said and he'd get me a bike.
What about the abusing lie you made up? I asked, still shocked.
I made up that excuse so Dad would take me away. I really like you, so I don't want his plan to work.
Then why did you continue to act up?
Because Cindy was mad at me, and I wanted her to play with me, so I pulled that trick again.
Tears streamed down my face. Unbelievable! I voluntarily stepped into his trap right at the beginning. He didn't even have to do much. I felt like such an idiot. After that, we exposed Ethan. Clarice helped us too. Turns out he's bankrupt, which is why his wife left him and why he's no longer my dad's business partner. Ethan was arrested, but Clarice's mom was out of the country, and she refused to return for her daughter. To be honest, I love Clarice, and I didn't want her to live in the orphanage. So I let her live at my place for a while before I told my parents everything. Obviously, my parents have more capacity and power to deal with this. It took a while for Clarice to get over her guilt and settle in, but now we get on better than ever. She's a sweet, cute girl who deserves far better than her parents have given her. Then one day, I came back home from college to find Clarice placing some roses on the dining table, which was already romantically set up with candles and steak.
Cindy, you're back!
How can you prepare a full dinner like this? Clarice didn't say anything. She just giggled and ran to her room. Someone hugged me from behind. Would you mind being my date tonight? It was Mike. Thinking about it, I guess my perfect man was right under my nose this entire time. So, grinning,
I turned around and replied, "I thought you'd never ask."
This was my first ever day at high school, and naturally, I'm owning it. I mean, who wouldn't want to befriend someone as beautiful and friendly as me? By lunchtime, I already had loads of new friends, and everyone flocked around me to hear stories about my amazing life. I soon became super popular at school. I was the gorgeous, enchanting blonde beauty. Do you know what the best part was? Boys started noticing me too. Even the captain of the basketball team, Mitch, took a liking to me. It makes sense. I mean, obviously, the best-looking boy in the school is going to be interested in the best-looking girl. And guess what? He's following me on my way home right now. Stalking me much, huh? Just wait for it. It seemed like my new life here in this school was going to be awesome.
Well, Mandy. That was not an easy question, but you answered it perfectly. Great work.
See? I'm not just a pretty face. I'm also one of the smartest students in the school. My admirers grew and grew. It seemed like everyone wanted to spend time with someone as perfect as me. Here, I was telling my new friends about how at first, people sometimes misjudge me, as I come from a well-educated and extremely successful family. My parents are super wealthy individuals who encourage me to always be the best version of myself and strive hard to never let them down.
Hey, Mandy, pardon me, but how come you never wear designer clothes or use anything expensive?
She looked down at my tatty-looking sneakers. I see why it might seem a little peculiar, but you see, I dress this way because my parents value the importance of being humble. That's also how I live. Goodness is better than beauty, right? Then I pulled out my phone and showed them the grades from my last school. Everyone gasped at me for being so excellent. I was loved, admired, adored. But of course, being this amazing meant that there's just gotta be quite a few kids being jealous of me. I mean, I suppose I couldn't blame them. After all, I dazzled like a diamond, while they were just dull and ordinary. One time after an exam, as soon as the teacher left, this girl called Layla stood up and said, "Mandy cheated. I saw it with my own eyes." I saw it too. She checked her phone during the exam. Everyone was gasping in shock. Right at that moment, the class president, Marshall, shouted,
Hey, quit it! We all know Mandy's a great student. There's no way she cheated."
Huh, that's what I'm talking about. Layla and Susan must be bursting with envy that their petty plan to ruin me didn't work. And the class president, he came out of nowhere to protect me. He must be another one of my many admirers. But, sorry, Marshall, I'm way out of your league. A girl like me needed a handsome, rich, mature kind of guy. These boys at school are cute, but they're just boys. They're beneath me. One time I was in a rush and didn't have time to search my locker, so I accidentally took the wrong textbook with me to class. Seeing my mistake, Layla and Susan immediately jumped in. Uh-oh, what's this? We thought Miss Perfection here never messed anything up. I didn't even have a chance to say anything, as this Beth girl spoke up. Hey, cut it out! Who doesn't make mistakes once in a while, huh? Here, you can share mine. Oh, wow. This girl was kinda nice. It was good to have an ally to deal with Layla and Susan. So, at lunchtime, I joined Beth's table. We started chatting, and she was clearly fascinated by how amazing my life was. Great! Now I had a faithful sidekick. Hey, Beth, help me do the homework for today, okay? Again? I have to attend a very important party with my parents tonight. There will be politicians and plutocrats. I won't have time to do homework. Now I have to go home early to get dressed and do my makeup. Bye! I didn't need to turn around to see her funny, bewildered face. She looked like that every time I asked her to do my homework. But it was worth it. Right, Beth? She got to hang out with the hottest prodigy in school. Me! So a little bit of extra homework was a small price to pay for such a privilege. You know, to me, that homework was nothing.
I just didn't have time for it. I had to admit that having Beth around was very convenient. She made sure my grades stayed top of the class, leaving me time to play polo, go to the golf club, and attend charity functions with my parents. She also let me borrow her dresses, bags, makeup, and this super cute pair of high heels. My friends admired me, strangers idolized me, my teachers adored me, and I had a wonderful, loyal best friend. Life was perfect. Until one day, as I was shimmying along the hallway, I noticed something odd. People weren't giving me their usual looks of adoration. Instead, they were turning their noses up at me. Huh? What was happening? Hey, Beth, do you know what's going on? People are acting really weird. She just shrugged. I don't know. Let's see. I tried to tell myself that it was no big deal, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong. Then later that day, my worst fears were confirmed. As I entered the classroom, Marshall came over to me and waved his phone in my face. Good game, Miss Perfect. Turns out you're just a big fat liar. I looked at his phone and saw a long post with a lot of photos attached. There's a big title saying, "The Truth About Mandy the Liar," and each photo came with a caption. Mandy's house is actually very ordinary. She lives with her grandparents. There are no luxurious mansions or wealthy parents. When Mandy just came to the school, she made friends with everyone, bragging about her fame, fortune, and popularity. I don't know who she is. So what if we just shared the same path to the bus stop? Who said that I intend to get acquainted with her? Her transcript from her old school isn't even hers. She's just photoshopped her name on it. Every time she stood up to answer a question or take a test, she cheated, so she got a good grade. God, all this? How did they know? It felt like my heart had lodged in my throat, and my mind was spinning. My eyes blurred when I saw Layla and Susan approaching me. I stared at them in shock. Mandy, honestly, we don't hate you. It's just that we realized your stories were ridiculous, so we decided to find out the truth. That's right, but you sure did cover your tracks. We couldn't find a thing. Hang on, so who found these pieces of evidence? I did! Right at that moment, my so-called best friend appeared, followed by the homeroom teacher. Mandy, I know you think I'm some desperate wannabe you can control, but no! I soon worked out that everything you said was a lie, so I gathered evidence to prove it. Everyone was gawping at me with disappointment. I felt completely overwhelmed by the situation. This couldn't actually be happening. I pinched my arm. Ouch! It was as painful and as real as what was going down before my eyes right now. Beth continued. It's not good for you to live a lie like this. Who even are you? Ah! Reality images started flooding into my mind, making my brain feel like it was going to explode. I grabbed my head and ran out of the classroom. When I opened my eyes, I found myself in the hospital. The homeroom teacher was sitting next to me, and my grandparents were also there. They all looked very disappointed. Mandy, the principal was very angry and was about to expel you. But it was Beth and her friends who convinced him to let you stay. What? Beth? But she was the one who exposed me. Noticing my surprise, the teacher continued. After seeing your reaction, Beth realized that perhaps you had a psychological problem, so she convinced us to help bring you to the hospital for diagnosis. I looked up at my grandparents. They were all in tears. Unexpectedly, I burst out crying. I longed so much to have a dream life full of fame, riches, and admirers that I drew a vision for myself in another reality. I was so absorbed in that illusory scenario that I forgot my own reality. This was last month, and I'm currently on medication for my delusions, and I'm also seeing a therapist. Right now, I'm on my way to see Beth, Layla, Susan, and Marshall. No, I'm not making it up. I really am meeting them. Oh gosh, there they are. This is scary, but it's something I've got to do. So I took a deep breath, then Then, taking my therapist's advice, I spoke from the heart. Hi guys, thanks for coming. Firstly, I want to apologize for lying. The truth is, I've lived the lie so much that I could no longer distinguish what was real and what wasn't. My therapist helped me see that this all began after I lost my parents. Part of my subconscious craved for this dream life so badly that I created a new one. This way I didn't have to accept the truth, which is that my parents have passed away and I live with my dirt poor grandparents. When I finished talking, I looked at them, half expecting them to shout at me or something, but instead, Beth smiled at me and said, "It took a lot of guts to come here and say that." "I'm sorry, too. I shouldn't have outed you like that, but I didn't know you were ill." "Same. I'm proud of you." "Me too."
Me 3. Now, when are we gonna order cake?
So, what now? Well, I'm still taking my medication and talking to my therapist. I can now tell the difference between the make-believe and reality. Also, I'm back at school, and my teachers and classmates have all been really welcoming. Better still, I now have some awesome friends who like me for me. And you know what? It turns out that living in reality isn't actually so bad after all. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. My God, I was so nervous. You see, this was my first day as an intern in this super big company. On one hand, anxiety wouldn't stop creeping up on me. But on the other hand, I actually couldn't wait to begin working in this fancy professional office. Having my own desk, my own PC, doing all the paperwork. So exciting! But, well, it didn't exactly turn out as I expected. All I did on my first day was make a lot of coffees, get everyone's lunch, and do endless printing. Oh, I forgot to introduce you to my team. This over here is Quinn, our team leader. And then the girl over there is Sadie. That guy sitting in the corner is Bob. And I'm the adorable Lauren. Then, while I was bringing yet another coffee and cake to each one of them to get to know them better, the manager, Caleb, came to our department and began yelling at Quinn.
Why have I still not received the report on the working project?
Sorry, boss. We're kinda short-handed.
Short-handed, huh? Then how come every time I walk past, I see the intern doing meaningless things? I didn't hire her to wait on you guys. Is that clear?
Then Caleb looked at me and said,
You, intern, in my office.
I followed Caleb into his office, feeling all anxious. Did I do something wrong? Then suddenly, Caleb hugged me from behind. I got so startled that I immediately pushed him away. What are you doing? You can't do that here.
Sorry. Just seeing you here makes me so happy. But what's with the tense face?
Oh, I never saw you yelling at somebody, so it was kinda scary.
That? Oh, that's nothing.
You're probably wondering why my manager was hugging me. Well, actually, Caleb is my boyfriend. You see, I was in my last semester of college. I told him that I wanted to do an internship because it would be good for me, so he insisted that I do it in his company. At first, I didn't think it was a good idea. I mean, couples that work together don't stay together, right? But he managed to convince me otherwise, so here I am. Even so, I didn't want anyone in the office to know about our relationship. Therefore, I didn't let him drive me to work, and having lunch together is also a no-no. Caleb had no comment about this. He probably understood why this was necessary. But then one day, at the end of the meeting with our department, Caleb was about to walk out of the meeting room when he suddenly stopped, turned around, and said in front of all,
Oh, by the way, I just want you all to know that Lauren is my girlfriend. Okay, bye.
Oh my God! Why on earth did he do that? Everybody immediately turned and stared at me with shocked expressions. And me, well, I just wanted to slide down the chair and hide under the table. I stormed into Caleb's office and demanded an explanation.
Yesterday I had lunch with a manager of another department, and he said that he liked you and wanted to ask you out. So I thought it's best to inform everyone that you're my girlfriend. Am I right?
What? Ugh! No! Men and their dumb egos! Ugh! Anyway, I hoped that it wouldn't affect anything. But as I feared, it did. Massively so. The moment everyone found out I was Caleb's girlfriend, they started treating me differently. Every time I walked into the room, they immediately stopped talking and gave me awkward looks. Or after work, they would go out for some drinks but purposely not invite me. It sucked being left out like that. And then one day, it got much worse. I arrived at the office extra early as there was an email I needed to send out before 9. But my PC wouldn't turn on, so I got under the table trying to see if a cable was loose. Right at that moment, Bob and Sadie walked into the office gossiping.
Clearly Lauren only got that internship because she's Caleb's girlfriend. And did you see her clothes? All those expensive brands? Well, having a boyfriend who's the manager in a big company must be blissful.
What? I never accept expensive gifts from Caleb. They're all mine. Then during work, I accidentally took a glimpse at Quinn's computer screen and saw that they were chatting about me in a group chat. Something about me not having to do errands just because my boyfriend's the manager. Hearing and reading all these mean comments made me feel really frustrated, so I wasn't in any mood to work that whole morning. Then in the afternoon, we had a meeting about the project we were all working on, and Caleb asked me to hand him the report. Oh snap. I'd totally forgotten to do it. Sorry. I haven't written the report yet.
Can I ask why? And what were you doing this entire morning? For the sake of our team, please focus. We can't mess this project up.
I'm just having a lot going on, okay? Interns are humans too. Jeez, I'll send you the report by the end of the day, boss. Everybody gave me befuddled looks. Caleb most of all. But wait, I see some of them smiling. Were those smiles for me? Then after the meeting, everyone gathered around me, patted my shoulder, and praised me for standing up against Caleb. To be honest, it felt good to be noticed and not ridiculed. So maybe there was still a chance I could win them over, right? The next day at noon, Caleb came by the department to grab some lunch with me. But I told him, in front of everyone, that I wanted to have lunch with the team. He looked confused, but still had to agree. Lunch with the whole team was great. Except for one thing. They constantly kept asking me about Caleb. Like, what's he like outside the office? Why is he always so strict and grumpy? I noticed that they kinda liked talking about Caleb, so I told them, oh, Caleb is such a great boyfriend. He's very attentive and is an amazing cook. But they weren't interested in that. Oh no, they just cared about his bad habits. Ugh, fine. So I gave them what they wanted. Well, I don't like that he's always perfectly on time. I'm 1 minute late, and he begins to lecture me about how time is precious and we shouldn't waste it. That definitely caught everyone's attention right away. They really liked that, huh? I felt kinda guilty, but I couldn't deny how nice it was. That feeling when everyone was starting to like me, and it would be only this time, right? Well, how wrong I was, because every time our team went out, they started gossiping about Caleb and then looked longingly at me until I badmouthed my boyfriend. Again. But to me, Caleb is the perfect man. He just has a few tiny flaws, but nothing major. So I decided to make stuff up. He sleep talks and never brushes his teeth before bed. And he burps a lot at home. Ugh, I hated it. But what can I do? The worse stuff I told them about Caleb, the more they seemed to like me. Then one day, Caleb invited some of the other managers to his apartment for some beer. Suddenly, a guy pointed at Caleb's beer and asked him if he should be drinking that, what with his gas problem. Oh no. Then this guy told a confusing-looking Caleb that everyone in the office was gossiping about him. Luckily for me, he just shrugged and said he didn't want to hear about idle gossip. Phew! That was close. But then something terrible happened. Some of my fake rumors reached Mr. Smith's ears, the general manager. One day I walked past Caleb's office and heard Mr. Smith yelling at him. Something about Caleb resigning as manager because there was a rumor that he pushed other staff who dared to argue with him to quit. Oh no! I only made that up on purpose so the others would be afraid of him and stop talking about him. It's all my fault. So as soon as Mr. Smith walked out of Caleb's room, I ran after him and said, "Please wait. I can explain."
What do you mean?
I took a deep breath to calm down. Then I began to explain to him that I was the one who spread that rumor, and that it was 100% not true. Please don't force him to resign. It's all my fault.
Oh, sweetie. Why did you do that?
I'm sorry, Dad. I was stupid and acted like a child.
It's okay. But gotta say, I'm disappointed, Lauren. I will talk to Caleb later. Hope you've learned your lesson this time, and don't you ever do that again. Understood?
Yes, Dad. Then he walked away. I let out a sigh of relief when, suddenly...
Dad? Are you calling Mr. Smith Dad?
Oh no! I didn't notice that Caleb was standing behind us. Well, the truth was finally out. As you can see, Mr. Smith, the general manager of the company, is my dad. But nobody, not even Caleb, knew that. Then Caleb continued.
Why didn't you tell me that Mr. Smith is your father? And why did you spread that awful rumor about me, Lauren? Why did you do that to me? Do I look like a fool to you?
He got so mad that he was about to walk off. I quickly held his hand and began to explain. I didn't tell you Mr. Smith's my dad because I was afraid you'd feel pressured and wouldn't want to be with me anymore. Caleb didn't say anything. He just stood there silent. So I continued. About the rumor, I'm so sorry. I messed up, but please, you need to understand. From the moment everyone knew I was your girlfriend, they started gossiping about me and leaving me out. I felt so hurt and lonely when all I wanted to do was fit in. Until this one time, everyone talked to me again as I unintentionally complained about you, and they treated me like a friend after that. But they're always hungry for more gossip about you, so I had to make some up, and I eventually lost control. I'm so sorry, Caleb. Caleb let out a sigh, then hugged me.
I'm sorry that happened to you in the office. I didn't know you were struggling. Next time, you have to tell me. Don't hide things like that, okay?
I nodded with a smile and silently thanked my generous boyfriend. Yet I almost ruined his career just to please those talkative coworkers of mine. But fortunately, things turned out well between us in the end. Eventually, people found out that Mr. Smith was my father, 'cause, well, eyes and ears were everywhere in this company. You can't hide anything. Then they began to gossip that Caleb was only dating me because of the managing position. Man, they'll never stop, will they? But anyway, I don't care anymore. My internship soon ended, and I decided not to come back to this company, obviously. I will find a more suitable environment. But actually, the time as an intern there taught me an important lesson. That you shouldn't care what other people think of you, and just stay out of all that office drama. It's really exhausting.